Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to change the world one person or one starfish at a time. As always, guys, make sure to rate, review, subscribe. I know you're going to want to share this episode. I'm really excited for it. This is a really good friend of mine, Dianna. The last time I saw her, we were on a plane to Paraguay and, we spent some time with John Maxwell. Dianna's been in the real estate industry for 42 years, coaching with John Maxwell, one of the original, persons there in his Maxwell Leadership Coaching Foundation. I was just looking at all this stuff, just published a book, which guys, we'll make sure it is in the show notes. Make sure to get it and read it, because I know it's going to be really good, but I'm really excited to get into things. So thank you so much for being on today, Dianna.
Thank you for the great opportunity, because I love the fact that you and I have the same goal. We just want to add value and give hope to others, because you and I both know that it's up to us as to where our life will go, right?
That's 100%. So let's dig into things right away. I just want to get down to the thing. 42 years ago, you're a woman. So obviously there was a lot difference back then than there is now. What got you into real estate? What got you into coaching? And what were some of the challenges you had to overcome, especially as a woman getting into some of those, I would say, male-dominated industries even now?
Well, you are correct. It was male-dominated when I got in. In fact, every office was then starting to have their token woman, is what they called them. And I'm going to go back just a little bit. I got into real estate because of a lady named Rosanna. She had sold me my first home, and then my husband and I our second home. And she kept saying, Dianna, you're selling home care products. You're making 90 cents a bottle. You literally need to go into real estate where you can make a lot for every transaction, right? And so I thought, I'd love to do that. Only I couldn't afford to go to the real estate school. My kids were sick one evening. I couldn't stay awake. So I turned on the television, and lo and behold, Angela, there was a podcast, or a PBS was having an auction, and a real estate course came up. Now, this is about 2 a.m. And I thought, oh my goodness, let me grab my checkbook. Let me see how much I can afford to pay for this. And I don't recommend ever letting your checkbook do the thinking for you. Yet that night I did. And I could afford $50. And the course was worth over $1,000. So everything in my mind, you can imagine, was going crazy. Like, don't do it. That's stupid. You'll look bad. All those things that we hit every day sometimes. And yet I heard my mom and dad's voice in my head saying, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Mm-hmm. So I called, I found out how to make the bid, made the bid. And the next morning I found out I won. Well, yeah, I probably did win, because who in the world was up
real
at
estate courses 2 a.m?
Yeah, I mean, the people that were getting home were not thinking about real estate, that's for sure. Yet here I was going to school, and some things happened during the school. The instructor quit. I ended up going to the state. You couldn't do it now because they wouldn't allow it. Yet I talked them into allowing me to take the test. And thank goodness it was math. I had majored in math and physics in college, and I passed. So now what do? I can't even afford a babysitter, for heaven's sakes, And I thought, first of all, I got to find a place to go work. Well, I went to Van Schok, which was a great company, largest in Denver. And they said, well, we've got our token woman, and Emma Curtis. Went to Moore and Company. They said, we've got our token woman, and she's Marilyn Getch. And they both offered me, in those days, secretarial positions. And there's nothing wrong with that. We need those people in our lives. I just wanted to sell real estate. So it kind of fueled the fire to keep me going. And 12 offices later, I was sitting in front of Sam Bright, and I said, look, when I go home tonight, I'm going to be selling real estate for somebody. I'd love for it to be with you. And he said, well, we've got Ray Kokosz. I go, yes, and you need 2 women. I mean, for heaven's sakes, just bet on me. And he said, okay, I think he wanted to go home. I should have just said, I'm not leaving until you hire me. That would have probably helped it move along faster. Yet he did hire me.
Wow.
Now I was faced with no babysitter, kids, So I put them in a little red wagon and I started going door to door, talking with people about becoming their realtor of choice. And of course, people made fun of me. Why would you hire a housewife that has her kids yet here's what I learned. And Angela, you already know this. Being in the service of other people gets you hired faster than anything else. Mm-hmm. And when you care about others and put your focus on them, you'll always have a job, right? And that's what I did. Well, I sold 104 homes that first year when the average agent back then was selling 5. And then people kind of stopped talking about me other than wondering what I did to sell the houses. And I did crazy things. Like I had Santa Claus go door to door with me, introducing me as the realtor they should use, right? Well, the kids loved me. And we did pictures with Santa. We did Easter egg hunts. I did all sorts of things to get to know the people. Now, fast forward, I went on to become the CEO of building the coaching and training company that became the world's largest in real estate. I also was able to help Keller Williams become the #1 training company in the world for 5 years straight. And it was done through some of the courses that I wrote and other people wrote. The main one was BOLD, Business Objective, A Life by Design. And that course was all about mindset. It was about selling. It was about scripts, dialogues, and things you had to do. Mm-hmm. More importantly, it was about who you were becoming. Well, these people, when I stepped down as CEO, started saying, Dianna, when are you going to write a book? And I kind of sloughed it off. And then one night I was down on the dock with reading a book, and I got a text from somebody, which I get quite a few of them, about how the things I had done had helped change their life. Now, you and I both know we don't change other people's lives. They have to change their own life. Yeah. So I trust that everyone will hear this correctly. We create an environment and we say things to people that encourage them, that give them hope. And people grow into the conversations we create around them. And therefore, yes, we can help change lives. They have to make the decision to do it. And at the end, it said, when are you going to write a book? And I thanked them for their kind words. Then I went back to the book I was reading. And there was the quote from John F. Kennedy, if not us, who? If not now, when? And I thought, okay, God, I got it. I'm going to write the book. And with that, I started. Now, you and I have taken many trips together, and you know those trips take a lot of time. So this book was kind of like, I did it, then I put it off. Did it, put it off. Yet when we become intentional, which is what I finally did, being intentional about the book, being intentional about finishing it off. And I believe in models. I believe in systems help us do things so much faster. Mm-hmm. And so this book has one specific model to go from who you're being to who you desire to become and leave a legacy that you're proud of. It also, though, has models throughout each chapter as to how you go about doing that. Because we all train our brain. We've trained our brain how to think, and we can retrain our brain to think a new way. Now, that was a long answer to a short question, and you wanted me to tell you kind of the history. So as old as I am, that's as short as it could be.
Guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching, listening on the podcast, great. If you're watching YouTube, Dianna is absolutely gorgeous. So she said she's getting older. She is like, yeah, if you look this good, like it's awesome. So I'm curious, you sold 104 homes in your first year. Just because I'm one of these people, how many, and you might not remember exactly, obviously, number, how many doors would you have said you knocked on in order to sell 104 homes? I want to know, how much failure did you go through in order to make those yeses?
Well, that's one of the models in the book. You learn, you implement, you fail, you relearn a new way. A lot of people stop at the failure and then fear sets in. So yes, I failed a lot. Now, the thing that I did was a little bit different because I took 200 homes And that's all I did. I just got to know each of those people. I knew their names, their kids' names, their dogs' names. The women were fabulous, and they wanted to know about how do you invest in real estate? What, because we weren't taught those kind of things back then. And I started having real estate parties. I figured if other people could have Tupperware parties, I could have a real estate investment party. And we had them in the evenings. And my kids got to come and play with their kids while I spoke with the husbands and wives about how they could set themselves up to invest in real estate. And it kind of took off. Plus all the other things I was doing, I just wanted to be the only realtor that they ever thought of when they were to move. Now, the other thing I did was I went into an area that was fairly new, yet it had 4 different levels of prices of homes. And I was in the tempo area. I went to the least expensive area. First-time buyers, which I knew as their families grew, they would have to move out of those homes into bigger homes. So I went to that area to get to know them. And then they would move up into the other 4 areas because most of them didn't want their kids to leave the schools that they were in, right? It was all very intentional and planned out for 5 years as to how this thing was going to come about. Now, 200 homes, 104 of them did not sell their house or move, right? And I count those as if they sold, that was one. And if they bought, that was another one, right?
Yeah.
The big thing, though, was the referrals I received because everybody knows somebody. And I have a saying, small fish have a way of knowing big fish. And they were able to refer me into people that I never even dreamed. I'd never seen homes like that, Angela. They were so big and so wonderful. And of course, that set my mind to dreaming. If they could do it, why not me? I have a thing. If you're watching this, pick up a pad, pick up a paper or a pencil and write down how much you made last year. And then write it down 5 times underneath, right? So let's say you made 100,000 last year and you put 100,000 per year. And I'm going to have you cross that out. The next 100,000, I want you to put per month and just see what happens to your brain. Of course, you get excited. You go, woo, that'd be good. Yet there's people out there doing that. Then cross through that. And you know what's coming. It's 100,000 per week. That's when your brain really starts going crazy. And all those limiting thoughts, I call it the devious storyteller in your head, goes to work telling you all the reasons that you couldn't do that, right? I'm going to have you cross that one out. And if it's per week, why not per day? Well, the next one coming out per hour. There are people doing that. Why not you? Why not me? And are we expanding our thinking? And that kind of got me going into this mindset. And I found that Google says there's 150 mindsets out there that we could have at any given time.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And our mindset is in our subconscious mind. Well, our attitude is in our conscious mind, and the people get those confused. They're not the same. In business, we talk about attitude. In sports, they talk about mindset. I've never heard somebody say in business, have a positive mindset. I've heard them say, have a positive attitude. Well, that's a lot easier because we consciously make the choice to be positive or negative. Yet, if the mindset is subconscious, and we know that the conscious mind sets the goals and the subconscious mind is the goal getter, well, if this is the setter and this is the getter, they got to be lined up, right? And if they're not lined up, you're not going to make your goals. So then I started studying people like yourself. John Maxwell, Ed Bastian, many people that I've heard interviewed and that I've interviewed. And I thought, what were the common threads? What mindsets are showing up? Now, I'm not a neuroscientist. I am not a psychologist or a social psychologist. So let's just make certain that I did this through the research of my own. And I found that there were 8 mindsets that would liberate you and 8 that would absolutely limit you. And it was based on these people that I studied. So I'm not saying that those are the only ones. You may have a different perspective. Psychologists may have a different perspective. This is my book, so I got to write it, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So it is the mindset that really made the difference in when I was selling real estate, and it will make the difference with them. And I just want to give people hope. You can change the mindset you have. In fact, we have a free assessment. If you pre-order the book, you get it free. On October 31st, when the book is launched, then we're going to start charging for that assessment. And Angela, the assessment will literally tell you and show you how much abundant mindset do you have in your unconscious mind and how much of the scarcity mindset. And who cares what it is? You're going to get the report. You don't have to share it with anybody else, yet who cares? If it's 90% scarcity and 10% abundant, the book gives you 5 steps that you can take that will help you move over to an abundant mindset, allowing you to be more, do more, have more, and eventually give more in your life.
I love this stuff. So what is one thing, and I mean, obviously there's a bunch in the book, so I'm excited for this book. So definitely get the book, but what is one thing that you think is I don't know if there's a one thing that you think is one of the biggest differentiators that helps someone change their mindset from negative to positive?
Well, from negative to positive is number one. Many people in the world today complain. They see themselves as a victim of their circumstances or a villain that pounces on other people, which is both negative. And those are the characters we play in the story of our life. We can also play the hero of our own story. We can be a coach or a mentor for others in our story and combine their story with ours. So first, we decide, what character am I going to play each and every day that I get up? And it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. I don't care about your past. Your past doesn't drive your future any more than the wake of a boat drives the boat, right? So the first thing would be to make a decision. The second thing would be to have something in place that every time you start thinking a negative thought, snap your fingers, wear a rubber band even around your wrist and move it over to the other wrist, and then say the opposite. Start looking for positive things. And the most important thing, now there's many others, but the most important to me is show gratitude. By just waking up and stating 3 to 5 things you're grateful for, because you can't be in gratitude and negativity at the same time. Your brain will not allow it. So when you start finding yourself going towards the negative, think of gratitude and it will instantly change.
Wow, so good. I'm like trying to take notes in my head here. So I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's fast forward a bit, because I know we could go on forever and ever, but we do have to watch time. Because I can already see this could go forever. But even lately, this is like a thing I hear a lot of people say is, I'm struggling. I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like doing that. I'm getting burnt out. Da 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 da. And I know, even at this stage in your business, you don't necessarily need to be working. You don't need to be writing a book. You don't need to be hustling, yet you're still doing that stuff while dealing with some health challenges, as we chatted about before. How do you get out of bed in the morning? This is something I get asked a lot. So how do you get out of bed in the morning and do the things you need to do when you don't feel like it?
Well, at 7 a.m., an alarm goes off on my phone. And it says, what will you do to add value to people today? At 7 p.m., the alarm goes off and says, what did you do to add value to people today? And so it's kind of an accountability that I keep for myself. And of course, you've given me this opportunity, and now I can help check that off today, right? So thank you for that. I think the big thing is people burn out because they don't have goals. They don't have something they're looking forward to. They don't have an encourager. And I think we all need somebody like that. We need support of some kinds from somebody. And when you have a great friend that you can call a little bit when you're down, that doesn't, woohoo, she's down today, right? or just dismiss it like it's nothing. Because to build trust with people, first you've got to understand the situation that they're in, to understand their story, yet not let them waller in it, right? So I think, how do you get up in the morning is one, have some kind of a goal, even if it's to add value to others. Secondly, to know that your life does matter, that who you are does matter. Many people since the pandemic have gone into anxiety and depression, and a lot of it is because they're working to control their life. We don't have control over our lives. They look at things as good or bad versus they're just seasons that we go through. And when we think about the seasons of weather, if it's wintertime, you put on a coat. And if it's summertime, you put on shorts and flip-flops, right? So what is it about the way we're thinking? Zig Ziglar used to say, if your thinking is stinking, you need a checkup from the neck up, right? In essence, start with your thoughts. So if I change this thought, what would happen? When you place other people above yourself, then you get up in the morning. When you know you're grateful for one more day to do something, you'll get up. When we start looking at all the problems that we have, it can be challenging to get up. And we've all had problems. We've all had challenges. I am not dismissing that at all. Yet I think the way our brain works is when we work to solve a problem, we are still focused on the problem. Instead of solving a problem, what if we went to what we desired to create? Because see, in problem solving, you're working to make something go away. And in creation, you're working to bring something into existence. And the brain looks at it differently. So rather than to say, I want this to go away, we say, this is what we want to bring into existence. And what would have to change in order to do that? And here's the funny part. We generally say other people have to change.
Right.
When my dad used to say, Dianna, the minute you point the finger that way, you got three more pointing back at you. Odds are 3-1, it's your own problem, right? And so I first look at myself. What is it that I have to change? And then you say, is the environment correct? Are other people thriving in that environment? If they are, then yes, it is the other person and they need to change, or you need to change them, right? So, yeah, it's within. And I say you either grow within or you go without. That's one of the chapters of the book. Where I think you're going with this is what you do every day. You could answer this question as well, Angela. Every day you get up. Doctors have told you that you aren't able to do the things that you do. And if you believe those doctors, you and I would not have been on a trip to Paraguay.
It's true.
If my brother and sister, who both had brain tumors, my brother learned to walk and talk 4 different times in his life.
Wow.
If they believed those doctors, he would have been in a wheelchair. And the only time he was in a wheelchair was when he went down the aisle with his daughter. Other than that, he was in a wheelchair in the hospital. But he kept telling him, I'll walk out of this hospital. And the only reason of that was we picked him up at the hospital, dressed him in a tux, put him in the wheelchair, and that was all we could do because he was still in a pretty bad state. Yet that night, he danced with his daughter, standing up, we can overcome so much. Our brain is so powerful, yet we stay in fear versus having faith. And when we truly believe, and belief is different than faith. I'm not saying if you're in a wheelchair, just think about it and you'll stand up. That's not true. Sometimes we are forced to stay in the wheelchair so we can grow in other ways. Every one of us have different ways of growing. We go to the gym, you make microscopic tears in your muscles. They grow. There are ailments that I have. There's ailments that you have. And those are there to help us grow. They're not going to go away. Yet we can grow through them. We can grow with them. And we can become more than we currently are in whatever gifts God has given us. And the question I have for every viewer today is you have a gift. The question is, have you opened it up? And if not, I encourage you to open it. I encourage you to know that you can borrow Angela's and my belief in you until you have your own. And you may say, how do you believe in me? You don't even know me. I believe in God, and I know that He loves you, that He's your creator, whether you believe it or not. And so, yes, I have belief in you. Please borrow it, because we can all be so much more. I'm working on myself every day.
I love that. I love that. It's so good. And like I said, I know we could go forever, but we always wrap up with 3 questions, and then anything you want to leave the listeners, which I know will be some more value at the end. Cause I just love this. This is so good. Like I said, I know we could go forever, but, we got to honor your time. So 3 final questions I always ask. Number 1 is, if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you could say that could help them find it?
Look for your gifts.
Yeah, that's good. Number 2, and I'm sure you have more than one, but what comes to mind? What's a favorite quote and why?
Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Like Jim Rohn said that. I love it.
That's so good. And 3rd and final question, what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
She made a difference.
I love that. All right. So you run into someone in a coffee shop and they're like, Dianna, I mean, that was so good. Really working on my mindset. I'm working on all these things. And get your book. What's something we didn't touch on that you just think people really need to, think about or know, to wrap things up?
You don't get what you want in life. You get who you are. And that's why we always got to be growing within, because you don't go into opportunity, you grow into opportunity. That's a John Maxwell quote, I know, and I truly believe it, because like a plant, you put it in a pot in your house, you water it, you fertilize it, by the way, which is a bunch of crap, right? And then it grows. It has to be repotted. When you grow yourself and you get better, it's time to be repotted. And that's what life is all about. One opportunity after another.
So good. Even when it's tough. I love that. Well, guys, I know you're going to, get the book. I know you're going to share this. Please share it with lots of people. Everyone needs to hear this message. It's so powerful. Very condensed. The book will be more in depth. I know that. And like I said, really excited for that. So guys, let's go out there. Let's change lives. Let's change one life or one starfish at a time. If we change one life at a time together, we can change the world. Thanks so much for being on, Dianna.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Love you. Bye.